Good morning and welcome to Green Tea Conversations, the radio show that delves into the pages of Natural Awakenings magazine to bring you the experts who share their progressive ideas and the latest information and insights needed so you can lead your best life. I'm your host, Candy Brothel, publisher of the Twin Cities edition of Natural Awakenings magazine, and I am honored to bring these experts to you. Today in our studio, we welcome Nakita Savant, therapeutic health coach and owner of Your Savant Health Coach in Edina. Welcome to the show, Nakita.
Thank you, Candy. I'm really appreciative that you're having me on today.
Well, we are glad you are here, and I'm always honored to have coaches come onto our program because I really strongly believe that the work you do is really important work, and it's really needed right now more than any other time. But one of the first things I always like to ask people when they first come on the show is just to help us understand you a little bit better and tell us about what brought you into, what got you interested in being a health coach and what kind of brought you into the industry.
Sure. Well, I think my younger years were very pivotal in having developed a high value for health, holistic health. When I was about 10, my mom was hit by a drunk driver. Actually in Becker, Minnesota here, I think it was on Highway 10. And afterwards, she had a lot of back pain and injury, and they said that she was going to be disabled for the rest of her life. I think it was 10 or 20% in her back. And she, at the time, she was somebody who would bike 20 miles on a weekend, and she was a jogger. And at night, I remember sitting on her feet, and she would do like 100 sit-ups. And so she was just not having any of this disability.
It's like not going to happen.
No. And at the time, she was also doing her RN program, which is very rigorous, and then raising me alone. So she decided to go to every doctor she could in St. Cloud, Western and Eastern, a lot of chiropractors, and got a little bit of relief, but not enough to be normal again. So she ended up down here in Burnsville, actually, and she started seeing a doctor here. And within 2 years, he had her back to normal.
Oh, my goodness.
So we kept seeing him, and I started seeing him probably, by age 11 or 12. And we actually still see him today.
Oh, that is really cool.
I don't know how many years, like 30 some years. And so I kind of informally learned a lot from him, from holistic Chinese medicine, kinesiology. And that probably inspired me. My first degree in college was psychology. So also mental and spiritual health. Mm-hmm. And from there, I went into social justice and education. And so it was, my view of health was holistic, mind, body, spirit, the whole picture, the whole person.
Wow, that's really interesting. And really, I can see how this would be something that would really kind of shape your worldview, watching your mother go through this at such a young age yourself, but then seeing that transformation over time. And so you became a health coach, and this is something that you've been doing now for quite some time. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it actually started, I was helping students. In 2011, I started editing dissertations and helping students academically. And what happened was they started to talk to me more about the stress they were under, which was, it wasn't just limited to academics. It was the stress they felt in their whole life. Mm-hmm. And so some of my suggestions for them actually had nothing to do with academics. And so that's kind of where that started to grow even more.
So you became really interested in how you can help your students, and then that led you into kind of looking at programs with health coaching. Mm-hmm. And so your approach that you take, and as a coach, we all take different types of approach, but the approach that you take is called therapeutic coaching. And I'm curious as to what that is.
So therapeutic coaching was a trademark by the Meta Institute, which was in New Hope for about, it was in existence for about 21 years. When it closed, I think it was up in New Hope. And so I took a therapeutic coaching course there and became certified. Part of therapeutic coaching is learning NLP, hypnosis, and
for people who might not know, what is NLP?
Sure. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So it has to do with the way our brains develop, where things are filed, even where trauma is filed and how that happens. More importantly, it has to do with the unconscious mind. And one of the things I learned becoming a therapeutic coach was that the unconscious mind drives all behavior. Mm-hmm. And so whatever files are stored in there, those are the files that everything gets filtered through. And of course, those are developed before we're 7.
Yes.
So a lot of times, any of the good and the bad, right, that happen before 7, those become our filters for life and unconsciously drive our behavior. So it's very interesting because we're a lot of times not conscious of why we're doing what we do.
And we have talked about this quite a few times on this show, but it really does go back to, it's really important that people understand that. I mean, if you look at your own children, if you, for people who have children and have raised children, everything that a child learns from birth to age 7, it's just incredible, the amount of information that they're able to take in and able to process and able to then create kind of a worldview around. But the other thing is that as a child, we really don't have the ability to have logic yet. So we're kind of raw emotion at that point. So a lot of the things that we deal with as an adult are because of emotions that were brought up to us as a child. And so you help people to kind of process through that using NLP and hypnosis?
Yes, and more NLP. I find that hypnosis is not, it's rare. I rarely use that. Guided imagery is just as powerful. Mm-hmm. So we have something called the assessment model, and we use that to kind of get to the root of the issues that the person is coming in with. And also we teach clients to use their unconscious mind, to access it, to have a relationship with it, because it's powerful and it's theirs for their good.
And so give us an idea, like if somebody came to you and they just said, you know, I just feel so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed with everything that's happening at work. Everything that's happening in my personal life just seems to be too much for me to take on right now. And I feel like, you know, maybe I need some meditation or I need some other things to help me. But one of the things is I saw on your website that you work with people as a therapeutic coach. What could be some of the approaches that you would take with someone?
Sure. Well, one of the approaches is to get really specific about what's overwhelming. Because if they present very generally, so I'll ask them questions. And a lot of times the questions we ask, the person hasn't ever experienced anybody asking them those questions before. So it becomes a really fun process. And like I said, we use an assessment model. So we ask them about what the problem is. And we ask them to describe it in quite a bit of detail. And then we move over to a section of the assessment model called outcomes. And sometimes that can take several sessions. It's pretty rare that somebody can do that in one. Mm-hmm. And then there's another quadrant called resources. And those are emotional, spiritual, physical, intellectual resources that a lot of times people forget they have inside of them. They're disconnected from their resources. And the last quadrant is obstacles. And that's where we get to the nitty gritty. That's where the root of the work sort of comes out, it's shown to us where this is all rooted. And in that process, I actually know which unconscious files that trauma is stored in or that problem is stored in. If it's theirs or somebody else's, if they took it on, or if they experienced it themselves, the stories they built up about it. Mm-hmm. And it's only when we get to that point, I mean, sometimes I guess before that point, a really experienced practitioner would be able to dive into some processes with the person. Usually we give homework for sure in between sessions. But in that last quadrant, it becomes obvious for me as a practitioner what specific tools can be used to sort of pull that root out. Because we don't want people to manage the problem. Mm-hmm. We want to help them manage it until they can sort of pull the root out like a like a weed in the yard. You want to pull it. You don't want to keep mowing over it. And there's,
that's a great analogy, by the way.
Yeah.
Really good analogy.
We could mow it. We could put medication on it. We could pull it over and over, talk about it. We could analyze it for years, really. It just depends on what the person wants. And it's my job to pace them in a way that's comfortable for them, because there's really no such thing as a client who isn't going to do their work or do their process, or a resistant client. Really, what's happening when you see a resistant client is it's really a practitioner's failure to pace them adequately. So the responsibility is more on the practitioner to really listen and meet that person where they're at.
Yes. Well, very good. Well, when we come back, we're going to have to head into a break right now. But when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Nakita and talk to you about your bioenergetic wellness assessment. Kind of get into that a little bit deeper. So for people who are interested in learning more about what Nakita does and to book an appointment, visit CoachMN.com. And that's CoachMN as in Minnesota.com. To read the online version of Natural Awakenings magazine, visit naturaltwincities.com. You can find a podcast of this show on am950radio.com, on Apple and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcasts. You're listening to Green Tea Conversations on AM950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Green Tea Conversations, where we delve into the pages of Natural Awakenings magazine and talk to the professionals who share their expertise on natural health with you. I'm your host, Candy Brothel, and today we're visiting with Nakita Savant, therapeutic health coach and owner of Your Savant Health Coach in Edina. So Nakita, just before the break, you were starting to describe for us one of your coaching approaches, which is therapeutic coaching. But you also have something that you do called the BioEnergetic Wellness Assessment. So help us understand what that is.
Sure. This is a type of, some people put it in the category of biofeedback. So what it is you put your hand on a hand scanner, and it scans 440 points in your hand that connect to all of your entire meridian system.
Wow.
And it looks for energy blockages, distortions, things that aren't working well. And the report that you get has about 8 screens of information from the one scan. So folks usually scan once a month to check in. And then we have something called Infoceuticals, which are bio-infused. They're based in water, and they make the corrections that we found from the scan. So they correct the distortions and the energy blockages that we found in their health scan.
So what do you mean it helps to correct that? How do you use it?
So it's similar to homeopathic drops.
Okay.
So, yep. So the information is in the water, is carried in the water. I don't know if many people listening to this are probably familiar with Emoto's book about water.
Oh, yes.
And can kind of understand a little bit of it from that point of view. What I want to mention about the scan is that it not only shows physical issues that are happening in the body that are a priority for somebody to heal. It puts those things in priority. What a person's body wants to heal now, so in layers. So they'll get something different in a month. It also has the ability to show us, rather than showing us nutritional deficiencies, it shows us which vitamins and minerals our body is processing and which ones it's not. So, for example, if you go to a doctor and they say, oh, you're low on D, take more D. Right. I can tell in my scan if their body has the ability to absorb it or not. So you have to be able to absorb it, otherwise you're wasting your money to take more of it. Another thing in this scan is we have an entire, it's 2 pages that shows environmental toxins that have affected you. Yes. So for instance, asbestos, parabens, we have a section on heavy metals. So aluminum, mercury, tin, any herbicides, pesticides that have been taken long enough over the course of your life that they've caused some distortion in your energy field.
That's really interesting. Okay, so I have to go back for a minute. I have to go back and talk about, because vitamin D is such an important vitamin that so many of us in Minnesota are lacking, right? Almost everyone I know has been told that they're low on vitamin D. So what happens with the assessment that you give? You said that it can help to identify whether your body can process vitamin D. What if it shows that it cannot process it? Then what happens?
So there's two approaches, and the one is the infoceutical that would be associated with that process, opening that process up in your body. There's a couple of things that happen when you're not absorbing D. Sometimes you're absorbing it so much because of the stress you're under that you're depleted, but not because you're not taking it.
Okay.
But because you need like 4 times the amount for the amount of stress you're under. Usually the stress reduction is the first place to go there. And then another thing that can happen is interruptions in your body's the natural way it would absorb vitamin D have been interrupted. And so no matter how much you take, it doesn't get fully absorbed. And so there's 2 approaches. One is the infoceutical drops, because there'll be a specific set of drops that will correct that distortion so your body can then absorb it.
Okay.
And the second approach is called the My Health device. And it's kind of like a TENS machine from like the Star Trek world. So a normal
really advanced TENS machine, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. A normal TENS machine, which is very useful for people, you can turn it up or down. So a little bit of zing, a lot of zing. This device, which was featured on Dr. Oz, first you program it to the particular part of the body, the frequency of that part of the body. So for example, your elbow has a different frequency than your heart. We know this because when we put pacemakers into people, we have to turn the dial to what frequency it's at to match their bioenergetic system. Because if they don't, what'll happen to them, happened to my aunt, she got her pacemaker in and couldn't walk. So they had to change the frequency on it to match her body.
Wow.
And then she was fine and the pacemaker worked fine.
Mm-hmm.
So each part of our body has a different frequency. So this My Health device, I can program it to your thyroid, to your hypothalamus, to your pituitary, to your big toe, to your sciatic nerve. And then after that, we turn the zing up or down.
And so how do you use it? Is it probes that you're putting on? Is it?
It can be, but I use the handheld device. So
Okay.
It actually looks like a kind of a long cell phone, and
Okay.
It has 2 or 3 prongs on the end of it. And then I turn it to a spot that's comfortable for the client. And so it's hands-on. There are some features that are hands-off. It sends a signal out. But I think most of them are hands-on. And the reason I know where their body needs that correction is because on the scan they did, that's one of the 8 pages, is the energy rejuvenation page where it shows me all the points that have issues. And so we use the My Health device on all those points.
And so what happens? How long does it I'm sorry, I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, this is exciting, but I have to figure this all out. So is this something that somebody comes into your office and that you do while they're there? Or is this something that they're taking home, a device that they need to purchase? Or how does this work?
Most of the time it works. A person comes into the office and I do it because the device is about $2,500.
Oh.
And then, a person has to be trained in it. But people can buy it. In fact, I sell them and they're expensive because I do the training as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in and we do that in the office according to what showed up in their scan. And some people get immediate results and some people it takes several sessions. It really depends on the body. So for example, I have a video on my website of Sal. She came over, she's a friend of mine, and I said, check out this new device I have and you should try it. And she had some carpal tunnel type feeling in her wrist and arm. And she used it and she she had been experiencing tingling for like days. It was driving her crazy. And it took away the tingling immediately. So she happens to be somebody where that was what she needed in that moment, and the tingling went away.
That is really neat. So for people who want to learn more or want to make an appointment with Nakita to learn more about the bioenergetic wellness assessment, visit coachmn.com. To read the online version of Natural Awakenings magazine, visit naturaltwincities.com. You can find a podcast of this show on am950radio.com, on Apple and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcasts. You're listening to Green Tea Conversations on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Green Tea Conversations, where we delve into the pages of Natural Awakenings magazine and talk to the professionals who share their expertise on natural health with you. I'm your host, Candy Brothel, and today we're talking with Nakita Savant, therapeutic health coach and owner of Your Savant Health Coach in Edina. So, Nakita, just before the break, you were telling us about your approach to health coaching and some of the tools that you use. But now I want to get into something really exciting, which is something new that you're doing this year. And it's called Your Savant Health and Wellness Online Expo, which will take place this Saturday, February 20th, from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. And this is really, it's a day fully packed with workshops and fun events and vendors and everything. And it's all online. Really, really exciting. So tell us about kind of what brought this into your purview. What made you decide to take this on?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think really, the events of last year. So everything's shutting down.
2020?
Yes, 2020. Everything's shutting down and people seeing each other less, especially the community of practitioners who support the rest of the community with their services that people depend on. So things shutting down. And then, when the health expo shut down, that's when my heart kind of dropped, because I thought, where are we all going to meet now? How are we going to reach people? How are people going to reach us? And that feeling kept getting deeper and deeper. And I think it was at the end of December, I thought, I thought something similar to what my mom thought when she was told her diagnosis. I just thought, no, this isn't happening. We're not all going to just disappear from each other's lives, disconnect from people who need us. That can't happen. And so I thought, well, the only thing I can do really is do something online. So I thought online health and wellness expo. I wanted to try to recreate some of the health expos that I had been invited to last year, or I guess the year before.
Well, and you have a lot of really great workshops, great speakers who will be taking part. You have 3 international speakers, people who are sharing what they know across the world. And so I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about the workshops that they're all doing and who they are. And the first one is, let's talk about Carol Heider. Who is Carol Heider?
Sure.
For people who don't know Carol.
She has the Wind Water Center, and she's been doing Feng Shui for many, many years now. She, in her particular section of the expo, she's going to teach 9 techniques to create the home you love. So it's very practical. She also has a book that she wrote, I believe that's international. And she's just a wonderful person. A lot of people know her, and she's helped a lot of people sort of construct their home in a way that promotes their highest good and their health.
And it really, how important is that right now? We are working in our home. We are going to school in our home. We're spending more time in our homes than we ever have before. And Carol really is, she is like a renowned Feng Shui expert. So for people who are wanting to really get some good information about how to create that home, that space that you want, her workshop is, I would say, a can't miss workshop for people to go to. You also have someone, you have Carolyn Pope, who is Australian's most renowned animal communicator. So tell us about this.
I met Carolyn through Ness Health, which is the bioenergetic wellness system that we talked about before. She also does that. The reason I invited her and know her is through that. She also gave me a half an hour free. I think it was about a year and a half ago, because both my dog and my cat were having issues. My cat had chewed a whole line in her back of hair out. It looked like somebody had shaved her. And Carolyn gave me advice in that half an hour that completely restored Roxy, who's my cat, our cat. And now her hair has grown back and she's really happy and a lot more active. So having that personal experience with her was really pivotal. And then I found out she was the most recognized in Australia. I didn't even know before that. So I felt really blessed that she gave me that time. She's also a cranial sacral therapist. So she's got quite the mix of healing modalities.
Yeah. And, it's interesting that you say that. My son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, have two dogs that they love and are just, really like their second and third children. And they're talking about, what's going to happen once they go back to work. They've been working from home now for a year, and their pets have gotten really used to them being there. So it'll be interesting to see if she has any great advice for people that are looking at, how do we transition if we're going to go back into the workplace and spending less time at home. And then the third renowned international speaker that you have is somebody who we are well aware of, and that is our friend Annette Regolo. And let us know what her workshop is that she'll be offering.
Sure. She's going to be asking people how they feel about their home in terms of if it's energetically supporting them or depleting them. So she's going to kind of open up that question. And she is going to do something live, which is tune into the home of one or more of the attendees at the workshop live and check their energy level right then and there.
The work she does is incredible. I mean, really, I've had her do my home where we're at now and the home that I sold, and just the difference it makes in your home when she comes in and works with dowsing and fixing any kind of the energy imbalances in your home. It's just incredible what happens. So people have listened to the show before. If you haven't, you can always go back and listen to podcasts of when I've had Annette on before. She's been on, I believe, 4 times on our radio show. So lots of information there. Now you have other speakers too, who you have, what is it, a total of 18 speakers that are going to be with you on Saturday?
I think it's 15.
Okay.
I think it's 15, and then there's 2 hosts. And, one of the other important things about the speakers is each of them has a package to give away. So from noon to 1 at the Expo, I'm raffling off a lot of really good stuff. For example, Annette, I think I'm raffling off, I think it's a 90-minute do-it-yourself course, and she's sending somebody the dowsing tools. Other people are raffling off different things, free sessions. I believe Carolyn Pope is raffling off 3 1/2-hour animal communicator sessions. So there's going to be a lot of really good stuff from that noon to 1 hour. And then additionally, folks can check out the vendors as well. And some of the speakers are doing the vendor pieces.
So you have vendors who will be coming in, and do you still have room also for additional vendors if people are interested?
It would be hard to slip them in at the last minute, but I could look at that.
But tell us about a vendor. How does it look? And we're used to having kind of in-person expos that we go to and we get to walk around the tables and get to meet people. But you're using a really unique program or online solution to having your your virtual summit. And so what is it that makes it unique, and how will people be able to kind of interact with their vendors?
Sure. So we'll have a stage So each speaker will speak for a half an hour throughout the day from 9 to 6, except for that lunch hour during the raffle. That'll just be the raffle. And then behind the scenes, there are virtual vendor booths. And so on the reception page, so I moved this venue from Zoom to Hopin because it has so many more features. There's a reception area where you can see the entire schedule for the day. And in that area, you can click on Expo and you will see all the different vendor booths. I think right now there's between 11 and 13 vendors because I have some people still finishing up. And you can click on their booth and it brings you into a separate area where you can chat privately with that person, or you can have a live one-on-one video with that person. Or if the person isn't there, because some of the vendors aren't going to be there for the 10 hours, because for them it's open till 7. If they're not there, they're going to have a video of themselves. So for example, Sandy Stangler is one of our vendors, and she has a really nice, I think, 2.5-minute video introducing herself. So if you show up in her vendor booth and you see her video, that's probably because she's taking a break, and she'll have an offer there for you, for attendees. So each vendor will have a promotion, an offer, like a free class, a free session. So this is really about reaching out to the people who need us and saying, we're still here. Mm-hmm. And in fact, come in for your free session to get started again, to get out of that hole that some of us have gotten in from being cooped up for this amount of time.
I just think it's really interesting that you can come in. It's almost like being at a live expo, because you're able to go in and still be able to have chats with one of the vendors who's there. It's a really unique approach. I think we're kind of used to the Zoom events that people have, or Facebook Lives, that type of thing. This just really kind of takes it to the next level. So what is the experience like for people who are attending the workshops?
Well, there's the speakers and then there's the virtual vendors. And they can toggle back and forth in between the two. So if they just pick a couple of speakers that whose topics really speak to them, they can do that. And then they can spend the rest of the day going into the virtual vendor booths and taking advantage of some of those promotions. There's a couple of vendors giving away free products, such as CBD oil and LifeWave stem cell patches. There's a coach that's giving away, I think, a 45-minute personal coaching session.
Wow.
So there's quite a few good things in there.
Now, people would kind of imagine, I believe, that this expo is going to be really expensive to go to because you have really great speakers, you have a unique approach, but you are offering this at an incredibly low price. So let people know what they can expect to pay in order to come to the expo.
This expo is $25, and your whole family can get in for that price because obviously it's on a screen. So anybody in your household or a friend who comes over can also get it for that one ticket price. Then I also have a special for people who are negatively financially affected by COVID. They can contact me and they get a free ticket. And that is also for their family.
That's really generous. You also have 20% off right now on your website, correct? So yes. If they go in and they take a look at this today and they sign up, they can get 20% off, which is another $5 off. So basically, it's an all-day expo from 9 to 6 for just $20, which is quite the steal. When we come back, we're going to learn more about the expo and the other workshop presenters, what they will be offering that day. To read the online version of Natural Awakenings magazine, visit naturaltwincities.com. You can find a podcast of this show on am950radio.com, on Apple and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcasts. You're listening to Green Tea Conversations on AM950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Green Tea Conversations, where we delve into the pages of Natural Awakenings magazine and talk to the professionals who share their expertise on natural health with you. I'm your host, Candy Brothel, and today we're talking with Nakita Savant, therapeutic health coach and owner of Your Savant Health Coach in Edina. Nakita is also the co-host of Your Savant Health and Wellness Online Expo, which is taking place this coming Saturday, February 20th, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. online. And so, Nakita, just before the break, you were telling us about some of the events, some of the things that are happening at the expo. You have your exhibitors who will be there. You have some international speakers, but you also have several local speakers who are really interesting. They have some really interesting workshops that they're going to be offering. So why don't you share with us who some of your other workshop presenters are?
Sure. My co-host, Mirtha Solis, is also one of my speakers and vendors, and she owned the Meta Institute for 21 years and trained therapeutic coaches. She has a 23-weekend, 500-hour intensive integrative certification program that is now called Blue Lotus Training and Consulting. So she will be doing a segment at the Expo. It's a Mind Power for Life segment that will help people learn an easy tool to get out of fight and flight or freeze and into relaxation and flow just within a couple minutes.
Oh, that is so important. Right now, people are there's such so much research actually that has been done on this about, it's our natural instinct to go into fight, flight, or freeze if we're feeling threatened. But now in today's environment, we feel threatened. Our mind thinks that we're threatened all the time. So we are at a very heightened level of fight, flight, or freeze. I always have a hard time saying that all at the same time. So she's going to help give a tool that people can use in order to bring relaxation and to be able to get out of that state quite quickly.
Yes, and she's going to illustrate the tool by doing it for the audience. Yes.
That's really neat. And she's actually the person who you got your training from, correct?
That's true. I entered the course as an editor because I was going to edit the curriculum, the therapeutic coaching curriculum. So that's how you got started. It was like I was kicking and screaming. I said, "No, I'm just here to edit. No, I'm just here to edit." She said, "No, you need to really be in the course to see what this is like." So it was sort of accidental, and it was perfect because everything I didn't learn in my 4-year psych program, I learned in this course, things that should have been in the psych program.
Exactly. Lots of really great information. So who are some of your other speakers that you have?
I have Nia Claire, and she is she actually has a really great podcast that she does live on Facebook, which I absolutely love. And she's going to present 2 simple, easy practices that'll help you see the connection throughout your day with your divine self. So she's going to help us all understand the universal law of supply, meaning ask and you will receive, and to learn to trust that. And that we, especially in this day and age, it's hard for us to connect to the fact that we actually live in an abundant universe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we are really familiar with Nia. Nia's been on our show quite a few times as well. She is an excellent coach, and she really embodies the whole living life in abundance. To really be able to bring those tools if people are feeling like maybe there isn't enough and it feels like you're always in kind of an area of scarcity, she can really help you to be able to kind of flip that around and be able to see and trust in the fact that we are in an abundant universe. Give us another speaker who you have.
Sure. I wanted to include also some movement. It's hard to sit in front of computers all day, which we've all gotten kind of used to in the last year. And I invited somebody really special named Jessie Johanneck, and she is a transformational coach and yoga instructor. So she has integrated the best parts of transformational coaching, including NLP, into her yoga instructor practice. And what's nice about her segment is in the 30 minutes that she's speaking, she's actually going to bring us through the integrative practice so that we move our bodies to have the actual experience of it. I really wanted this expo to be less talking heads, right? and actually have some real life experiences with people that they bring us through.
So I can just imagine people with their laptop kind of going into different rooms of the house at different times of the day in order to take part in all the different activities that are happening, or even, putting it up on a bigger screen TV and kind of having it running throughout the day. This is, again, from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. all day on Saturday, February 20th.
Yes, and each speaker has a half an hour to speak, and then some of them also have a virtual vendor booth. So when you see a speaker and you get really excited about them, you could potentially go to their booth and have a one-on-one.
So be sure to try to do that. Go to as many booths, visit as many booths as you can as well. Who is another speaker that you have?
Sure. One of the people that I invited has her own podcast show and a best-selling book called The Toxin Terminator. And she has a really great story she's going to share with us. So she's a best-selling author. She talks about finding the areas of toxicity in your life, meaning mostly in your household, things that you're ingesting, things that you're exposed to, and helping you remove all those hidden toxins from your home and come to a higher level of health.
Wow, that is really important and really timely right now. I don't think we really understand how much toxins we have in our day-to-day life. And especially now, we're in the house so much more. And this time of year is especially hard on us. So give us one more that you can tell us about before we have to end our show today.
Sure. Bobby Sullivan is also going to be one of the 30-minute speakers at the Expo. And I think he's known in the Midwest as the aura photographer guy. And so one of the things he's going to highlight is that he also has a business doing energy work. So he has a energy healing practice, cranial sacral therapy, and past life regression. And he is a busy guy in his practice. At the Expo, he's going to teach us 10 ways to raise our vibration. So again, each speaker will have a really practical and hands-on thing for us to take with us. So we're not being sort of preached to. We're actually having an experience and going away with the tools that we need for self-care during this time.
Well, it's really impressive. And I want to congratulate you. You've really brought together some interesting speakers, and you've really been holistic in your approach. I mean, taking a look at not only our home, but our personal lives, our physical, our mental, our spiritual sides. And it just really makes for a very well-rounded Expo. So congratulations. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for being with us too today and sharing all this information with us. We really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you, Candy. It's been wonderful.
To learn more about what Nakita does and also to sign up or register for the Expo, visit CoachMN.com. Thank you for joining our conversation today as we awaken to natural health. You've been listening to Green Tea Conversations on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and I am wishing for you a lovely day.
Lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day.